What is up, everybody? Okay, so this is a quick little video, well, not really, it's a long video, about how to maintain a reef tank. There's a couple shoutouts in here. All the links are in the description, and stay tuned for a question and answer at the end of the video. Just want to thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy the video. Hey guys, so today is going to be a how-to video. So what this video is going to cover is how to maintain a healthy reef tank. A lot of people ask me this question, and trust me, there's a million answers for this. So hopefully I can answer some of you guys' questions. I'm going to go through some of the methods I use to keep a reef tank, and some of the methods I've seen some other people use as far as fish keeping and things like that. So first things first. First thing I want to talk about is water testing and record keeping. A lot of people don't really do water testing. A lot of people don't really keep records. When they do the water testing, they'll go to the fish store, say, hey, what's my parameters? They'll say, oh, they're good, and they're like, okay, thanks, and then they just leave. Problem with that is good kind of has different terminology depending on who you go to. I've gone to some fish stores and they've said, oh, your water's great. And I've gone to other fish stores and they say, oh, your water's terrible. And it's the same water. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Because some stores will test calcium, some won't. Some stores will test certain things that others won't, and you get different results. So definitely recommend testing your own water. Helping the fish store test it as well doesn't hurt. It helps get a second opinion. And record keeping is something very essential, especially with a nano reef tank like this. Here I have basically just a composition book. Composition book has every record since day one of this tank. And pretty much I take a record every 2-3 days probably, at the most, sometimes every day. And sometimes that record is a water test, sometimes that record is just an observation. So the next thing I want to talk about is observation. Now, observations are key when it comes to reef tanks. I mean, when you look at this tank, you have to consider the corals. Are they healthy? The fish, are they healthy? How do the corals look? Like you can see this guy here. I moved him here yesterday. He seems a little shrunken up. He might not be getting enough light. Maybe he's getting too much light. That's always an option. And this coral here, I moved him on the sand bed. You can see he's open. You can see feeder tentacles. This is an acan, so feeder tentacles are usually a healthy sign. Usually that means he's ready to eat, ready to go. That's great. You can see this bubble coral here. You can't see it from the front view, but on the side view, it's extending just a little bit. And because of that, maybe it's not getting enough light, maybe it needs more food, but it is healthy, so that's a good sign. This is a kessil. I just got this, about a week ago, so I'm still ramping up the LEDs, so some of the corals might need a little more light than they're getting right now, but this is what I always say. Less light is always better than too much light. So just keep that in mind. Too much light can kill a coral, too little light can starve them, but very slowly. So too little light is not going to kill them overnight like too much light might, so that's always something to consider. And you can see like my zoas here, for example, they all look healthy, nobody's hyperextended, nobody's shrunken up or closed. And another thing too with observation is keep in mind, look for pests, look for disease. You can see on some corals like zoas, they'll shrink up when there's a nudibranch eating them or a spider on them or something like that. And if you see that, I always like to dose Coral RX. That's a great product. Kills pretty much everything but coral, so don't put your fish in it. It's a really bad idea. And you can see my fish here. You can't tell on the camera, but there's a couple white spots on them, so obviously they're stressed out from the new light, the water change I just did, the water top off. And the next thing I want to talk about going off that is stability. Now, keeping stability is key in a reef tank. Now, what that could mean buying a heater for you. That could mean keeping the same LED. That could mean keeping the same food. That could mean a lot of things to you. So what I like to do for stability is, I don't have a heater in this tank, but right now it's summer, so it's pretty hot. But the main thing was a heater. If your house goes between probably more than 4 to 6 degrees throughout the day, if it fluctuates, you want a heater. Main reason is you want to keep the temperature about the same for the corals and the fish, because as the water temperature changes, your fish are going to get more stressed out and your corals are going to get more stressed out. So it's kind of like if you're taking a shower and they dump a cup of cold water on you, it's going to freak you out. So same thing with fish is try and keep the temperature the same. It's not necessarily keeping the water temperature at 78 degrees because they need to be hot. It's more so keeping the water temperature at 78 degrees so it doesn't go down to 72 and shock everybody and then you have ick and all these other problems. So another thing with stability, I use crushed aragonite in all my tanks. Reason being that keeps the pH really stable. It keeps pH right around 8, and you really need your pH to become stable because all your corals rely on it, all your fish rely on it. A pH swing can kill anything from very, very simple corals like Xenia to very high-end corals like SPS and Acropora. So keep in mind pH is a key factor. LED lighting, I mean, You want to keep your LEDs constant, but if you have it on a timer and a ramp up, ramp down, that shouldn't hurt anything. That's what a lot of people like to do. But you don't want to be changing LED fixtures every couple weeks. I mean, you don't want to buy a cheap one and then buy a higher end one and then buy a higher end one. You want to buy an LED light that's going to last, that you're going to keep on your tank for a long time. So keep that in mind when you're buying LEDs. If you're going to buy one, it's usually recommended to buy the one you're going to stay with pretty quickly before your corals get used to it. So let's see, what else do we got here? So hands in your tank, I mean, as far as putting your hands in your tank, you want to wash your hands. What I like to do is wash my hands with hot water. That keeps all the bacteria and stuff on my hands from getting in my tank. And then you want to wipe down your hands with a clean towel. Make sure there's no soap on it. If you get soap in your tank, everything's pretty much dead. Cologne is a major thing, deodorant, kill everything in your tank. So just be careful when putting your hands in the tank, because that can cause a lot of fluctuations. If you get a lot of skin oil on your hands, it can cause some fluctuations, things like that. So always make sure your hands are sterile. Some people like to use gloves. Gloves are a great thing. Just make sure they don't get mixed up with any chemicals like Coral RX. If you get Coral RX on your gloves, put it in your tank. If your tank filter doesn't catch it, your fish are going to die. Your shrimps are going to die, and that's bad. So let's see. Another thing, the key, if I was going to recommend anything throughout this whole video, the key is weekly water changes. In this tank, I do probably a gallon, 2 gallons, depending on how I'm feeling that day for weekly water changes. Now usually I do them on like every Friday or something, and I keep a record of that in my book right here. So every week I'll change a gallon or two, and what that does is it keeps your tanks stable without dosing it. Your salt basically keeps everything in check. If you use reef salt like I use, it keeps everything in check as long as you do weekly water changes, and that's a very safe way to dose your tank and to keep it healthy. If you were going to dose it, then you want to be very careful. You want to test a lot, make sure you don't overdose things like iodine, magnesium. Those can really harm your tank if you do too much of them. So just make sure you don't do anything to that extreme. So I like to do weekly water changes just because, like I said, it's simple. It's an easy, effective way to dose. It's, you're going to get about the same dosing every time you do it. You're going to replace about the same amount of minerals every time you do a water change. And that can help a lot. So weekly water changes go a long way, trust me. I know it's a lot of water to go through, especially if you have a larger tank, but it's definitely worth it. As you can see here, I mean, all the corals are doing great. All the fish, well, more or less are doing great, apart from the ick they're going through right now, but some garlic and stuff should fix that rather quick. That's about all I want to talk about. I mean, that's pretty much the key to maintaining a reef tank. Weekly water changes, water testing a lot, keeping a record, making sure nothing goes out of whack, observation. If you do that, you guys should be fine. If you have any more questions, post in the comments below. I just want to give a shout out to Matt Scott. I'll put his link in the description. He's another YouTuber that mentioned one of my videos, and he makes some awesome reef tank videos. He's got a nice little Xenia tank, nice little cube tank, some cool clownfish, everything's pretty good. And he's got some cool ideas. What he actually does with his fish, when he stocks it, most people look at their fish and say, are they aggressive, are they nice, are they mean? You know what I mean? And what Matt does instead is he'll say, okay, what fish are going to go where? And that's a really cool idea, because I never really thought about that. And he has clownfish that reside in the middle of his tank, gobies that go along a sand bed. He has some gobies that live in the rocks, and it's really cool because most people just think, okay, can a damsel go with a clownfish, and can a clownfish go with this, and can that go with that in one tank? Can they all live? Yes. Well, whereas Matt goes, can they coexist in their own habitats, in their own niches? And that's really cool. It's like he's taking it from a biology book, and it's really neat for someone to put that inside a reef tank, because that's how it is in nature. So definitely check out Matt's channel, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all my subscribers. Thanks for all my likes. It really helps a lot. Really appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Hey guys, so it's time to do a quick little question and answer. So let's see, what light do I use? I use the Kessil A160WE, and it's running at about 10% right now, and I think it's a great light, so definitely like that. What tank is that in the video? That is a Nuvo Fusion 10 made by Innovative Marine, a really great company. And then, do you use a skimmer? Definitely not. I just rely on weekly water changes. And then what corals do you have? Well, I have a lot of acans, sun corals, some zoanthids. Those are preferably my favorite. How do you cure ick? Feeding your fish a lot of garlic and a lot of vitamins can really help cure ick, but definitely keeping water parameters stable helps a lot. And what is your cleanup crew? I have a fire shrimp and 2 Nacerius snails and a couple hermit crabs and a trochus snail. And what do I use for filtration? ChemiPure Blue, some Seachem Matrix, and some floss pad. So that was a quick question and answer. I just want to thank you all for watching my video. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'm noticing a lot more likes in my videos, and I really appreciate that. Really appreciate all my new viewers. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to y'all later, and enjoy your reef tanks.